Imagine waking up one morning to discover that the global energy game has changed, and the players you thought were in control are no longer holding the cards. Imagine a world where oil is no longer traded in dollars, where power is no longer centralized, and where a country long overlooked steps onto the world stage with a secret that could shake global markets to their core. This isn't fiction. This is happening now. In this eye-opening speech, you're going to hear a story that connects oil, money, global politics, and a country many never saw coming, Pakistan. What if I told you that deep beneath its rugged mountains and silent seas lies a hidden force strong enough to disrupt the petrodollar, shift alliances, and spark a new era in global energy? This isn't just about oil, it's about power, it's about opportunity, and it's about a coming storm that most of the world is still asleep to. So don't blink, don't skip, watch till the very end, because what you're about to discover may change the way you see the world forever. Since the early 1970s, the petrodollar system has been the backbone of the global oil trade and one of the strongest pillars of U.S. economic power. It began when the United States struck a deal with Saudi Arabia and other OPEC nations. Oil would be sold exclusively in U.S. dollars, and in return, the U.S. would provide military protection and economic incentive. This agreement didn't just secure oil prices, it created a near universal demand for dollars. Any country wanting to import oil first had to acquire US dollars, which meant holding dollar reserves, trading in dollar markets, and contributing to the strength of the American financial system. The petrodollar system created what economists call an exorbitant privilege for the US. Not only did it give the US the ability to print money that the rest of the world needed, but it also helped fund its deficit, stabilize its currency, and strengthen its geopolitical leverage. Countries from Asia to Europe, even those politically opposed to American policies, had little choice but to use dollars for oil transactions. This artificial demand made the dollar the world's reserve currency, and the US enjoyed a unique form of global economic dominance without having to match it with equivalent production or exports. However, this system is now under increasing pressure. The rise of competing global powers like China and Russia, economic alliances such as BRICS, and technological shifts in financial transactions have challenged the monopoly of the dollar in oil trade. China is signing oil deals in yuan, Russia is trading in rubles and gold, and several nations are pushing for de-dollarization in response to Western sanctions. These developments are not just isolated events. They are signals of a deeper transformation in how the world manages trade and power. Moreover, the petrodollar system's success depended on a relatively stable geopolitical order with the US at the center. But global trust in that order is eroding. US foreign interventions, economic sanctions, and an increasingly multipolar world have led many countries to seek alternatives. The petrodollar is no longer seen as a guarantee of stability, but rather a tool of control. As nations discover new energy reserves and build alliances outside Western frameworks, the system that once seemed untouchable now appears vulnerable. The fragility of the petrodollar is not just an economic concern. It's a signal that the era of unchallenged American financial dominance may be coming to an end. The global shift away from dollar-denominated oil trade is one of the most critical developments in the modern economic landscape. For decades, the US dollar has been the default currency for international oil transactions, making it central to global finance. This arrangement created massive demand for dollars, giving the United States an extraordinary advantage in global markets. However, recent years have seen a growing resistance to this system as several major economies are now seeking to break free from dollar dependency. So first, next to the United States, China, for instance, has been aggressively promoting the use of its currency, the yuan, in international trade. Through initiatives like the Belt and Road, it has signed energy agreements with countries such as Russia, Iran, and even Saudi Arabia, where oil is being traded in yuan, or through currency swaps that bypass the dollar altogether. This is not simply about economics. It's a geopolitical strategy to challenge US dominance and increase China's influence across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. Similarly, Russia has responded to Western sanctions by conducting its oil and gas trade in rubles and by strengthening economic ties with countries willing to bypass the dollar system. Iran and Venezuela, long targeted by US financial sanctions, have also sought alternative mechanisms for oil exports, often involving barter systems, cryptocurrencies. These moves highlight a global pattern. Countries are no longer willing to let the dollar be used as a tool of economic control or punishment. Even traditional US allies are beginning to hedge their bets. European nations facing energy insecurity and rising costs have started to question the wisdom of relying entirely on dollar-based systems. Some are exploring digital currencies and new payment platforms designed to reduce dollar exposure, especially in energy and raw materials trading. The implications of this shift are profound. As more countries move away from using the dollar in oil transactions, global demand for the currency could decrease, weakening its value and reducing America's ability to sustain high levels of debt. It also undermines the financial leverage that Washington has historically used in diplomacy. This trend signals a move toward a more multipolar economic order, where energy trade is diversified across various currencies and platforms. It's a silent but powerful transformation of global economics, one that reflects the shifting balance of power in the 21st century. Pakistan has long been viewed as a nation struggling with economic instability, political challenges, and dependency on external financial aid. Yet beneath its surface lies a lesser known but potentially transformative asset, vast untapped oil and gas reserves. For years, limited exploration, political instability, and inadequate infrastructure kept this potential hidden. But recent geological surveys, along with quiet interest from international energy firms, suggest that Pakistan might possess significant hydrocarbon deposits, particularly in regions like Balochistan and offshore in the Arabian Sea. These reserves, if confirmed and effectively developed, could dramatically alter not just Pakistan's economy, but the balance of energy power in South Asia. Balochistan, a sparsely populated and underdeveloped province, sits on a geological belt that many experts believe is rich in oil and natural gas. For decades, political unrest and a lack of investment deterred exploration. But now, with increasing global demand for diversified energy sources and the weakening grip of traditional oil suppliers, international attention is beginning to shift. Major energy companies and state-backed firms from countries like China and Russia have shown increasing interest in conducting surveys and exploration projects. These aren't just speculative ventures. They represent a growing realization that Pakistan might be sitting on a resource treasure chest. In parallel, the deep waters of Pakistan's Arabian Sea coastline have also caught the attention of offshore drilling experts. Several test wells and seismic studies suggest that significant reserves could lie beneath the seabed. The strategic location of these offshore blocks, near major shipping lanes and adjacent to the energy-thirsty markets of China, India, and the Gulf, adds immense value to their potential. Developing these resources could not only satisfy Pakistan's domestic energy needs, but also turn it into a major regional exporter. The discovery and development of such reserves would be nothing short of a geopolitical earthquake. Pakistan, a country often overshadowed by its more powerful neighbors, could suddenly find itself in a position of strategic leverage. It would gain stronger economic independence, increased foreign investment, and enhanced influence in regional energy politics. Furthermore, in a global landscape where new players are emerging to challenge the petrodollar system, Pakistan's entry as a credible oil-producing nation could align it with broader movements toward de-dollarization and energy multipolarity. What was once seen as a peripheral player might soon stand at the center of an unfolding energy revolution. Europe has found itself increasingly vulnerable in the shifting global energy landscape. The war in Ukraine, sanctions on Russian energy, and rising geopolitical tensions have exposed the continent's deep dependency on a few key suppliers. As energy prices soar and supply chains remain under pressure, European nations are desperately seeking new, stable, and affordable energy partners. In this context, the emergence of Pakistan as a potential oil-rich nation presents both a shock and opportunity that Europe cannot afford to ignore. Traditionally, Europe has looked eastward to Russia, the Middle East, and North Africa for its energy needs. However, many of these relationships have grown strained or unstable. Pakistan, located at the crossroads of Central Asia, the Middle East, and the Indian Ocean, sits in a geostrategically vital position. If Pakistan is indeed home to significant oil and gas reserves, both onshore in Balochistan and offshore in the Arabian Sea, it could offer Europe a new and unexpected energy corridor. This would diversify supply sources, reduce dependency on volatile regions, and enhance energy security for the continent. The shock factor lies not only in the discovery itself, but in the timing. At a moment when Europe is restructuring its entire energy strategy to become less reliant on adversarial powers and transition towards sustainability, the prospect of a new oil supplier outside the traditional OPEC or petrodollar system is a potential game changer. Pakistan, not typically seen as a major energy player, could provide energy deals that are more flexible, politically neutral, and economically competitive for countries like Germany, France, and Italy, all of whom are grappling with inflation and rising energy costs. Such a development could reshape long-term planning. Moreover, this shift could also redefine Europe's diplomatic stance towards South Asia. Energy cooperation with Pakistan would open avenues for broader trade, infrastructure development, and technological exchange. It may also encourage European investments in Pakistan's energy infrastructure, pipelines, refineries, and ports, positioning the EU as a key partner in this emerging energy chapter. With growing competition from China and the Gulf in the region, Europe would be wise to act quickly and strategically. This unfolding dynamic illustrates how global power can change overnight. A country once dismissed as unstable or peripheral must suddenly become central to Europe's future. Pakistan's entry into the energy spotlight isn't just about oil, it's about reshaping regional influence and economic alliances in ways that Europe can no longer afford to underestimate. The global energy order is rapidly transitioning from a unipolar structure dominated by a few powerful players like the United States and OPEC to a multipolar system where influence is more widely distributed. This change is being driven by a combination of geopolitical shifts, technological advancements, and the desire among emerging nations to assert their independence from traditional power structures. The weakening of the petrodollar system is one of the most visible signs of this transition as countries seek to trade energy in their own currencies or through alternative mechanisms. As a result, the monopoly of a single reserve currency in global energy trade is being challenged from multiple directions. In this emerging landscape, countries that were previously considered peripheral to global energy discussions are now becoming increasingly relevant. Pakistan, with its potential untapped oil and gas reserves, could become one such player. Unlike the established giants, whose influence is tied to old agreements and entrenched systems, new entrants can shape energy partnerships based on current geopolitical realities. This includes currency preferences, supply chains, and political alliances that better reflect today's multipolar dynamics. Pakistan's strategic location between the Gulf, Central Asia, and China also places it at the heart of new energy corridors being developed to reduce reliance on Western-controlled routes. The rise of multiple energy centers across Asia, Africa, and South America is diluting the power of traditional players. Nations like Brazil, Iran, and now possibly Pakistan are stepping into roles that challenge the existing hierarchy. At the same time, the use of regional currencies for energy transactions, including the Chinese yuan and the US rupee, is reducing the dominance of the US dollar. As these trends accelerate, energy trade is becoming more diverse, not only in terms of who supplies it, but also how it's priced and settled. This multipolar energy order presents both opportunities and challenges. For countries like Pakistan, it offers a chance to grow economically and strategically without being tied to the old rules of engagement. For established powers, it means adapting to a world where control over energy no longer guarantees dominance. In this environment, nations that can offer stable, alternative sources of energy will hold more influence in global diplomacy. The future of energy will not belong to one superpower or one currency, but to a network of flexible, resilient, and resource-rich players shaping a new global balance. In conclusion, the world is standing at the edge of a massive energy shift. The petrodollar system, once the unshakable backbone of global oil trade, is showing signs of fracture. Powerful nations are moving away from dollar dominance and new players are rising. Among them, Pakistan, long underestimated, is now emerging as a surprising contender with potentially vast untapped oil reserves. This development doesn't just offer Pakistan a chance at economic transformation, it signals a broader reshaping of global energy and power structures. For Europe and the rest of the world, it's a wake-up call to rethink alliances, diversify energy sources, and prepare for a multipolar future where energy influence is no longer controlled by a select few. The nations that recognize and adapt to this shift early will lead the next chapter of global growth and security. Thank you for your time, your open minds, and your curiosity about the world that is rapidly changing before our eyes. Stay informed, stay engaged, and good luck as you navigate the future with wisdom and vision.